Hey guys, welcome back as always. My name is Leyzar, and today we're going to be checking out the Incarnon form of the Synoid Gammacor. Now normally I do a full and detailed build guide. This time we're going to change things around simply because I believe the weapon to be bugged. It acts a bit funky, a bit weirdly, but to understand more of what I mean, you're going to have to understand how the Incarnon form works for this one. So essentially what we're going to be doing is letting the developer react, and then we're going to do a full and detailed build guide. Simply because if I am to review it now, I'm just going to call it meh, and I don't want to call it meh. I want it to be all it can be, and I think right now it's just a bit bugged. In Incarnon form, this one is very similar to the Gorgon, which in and of itself is a bit cheap, but let's leave that one alone for now. It's a projectile, it has damage drop-off. It's going to be embedded into a target or a surface after 1.2 seconds worth of delay. 5-meter explosion, 30% damage drop-off. This one, opposed to the Gorgon, even though the damage and the range and the drop-off is pretty much similar, has a suck-in effect. So it sucks and then it blows. And no, I couldn't help myself. I had to go there. So that 30% damage drop-off is less relevant for this one, simply because, again, you are bringing your enemies to the epicenter of the explosion, which means you're going to be getting the brunt of that damage onto them, which is fantastic. This one, however, generates more procs than it should, and that got me to testing. Let's have a look at the stats so you can see exactly what the weapon should be proccing and how much it should be proccing. I'm gonna be using on this one just a couple of mods. We're just gonna be using Hemorrhage and Sure Shot for the extra status chance. The big explosion accounts for about, 80% of the damage, and it's pure cold damage. This represents the projectile making contact with a target, and my status chance is 53.2%. So technically I should only be generating impact and cold procs on my targets, and maximum one of each. Yes? Now take a look at this one. We're just going to be using it again in secondary fire mode or in Incarnon fire mode. Where the hell did I get impact on that target? 2 impact procs. I didn't make direct contact with said target. What gives? And you will see that this carries over. A whole lot of your targets are getting impact proc. Look at that. Impact proc, impact proc, impact proc essentially everywhere. No, it is not the explosion. The explosion never generates anything other than cold, even though sometimes it generates 2 cold procs when it should at maximum generate 1. If you want 1 damage instance to generate multiple status effects, then you need over 100% status chance, which we do not have. And we don't have multi-shot, we just have a explosion. So that's a bit weird. Essentially, this one has a 0 damage instance, and that 0 damage instance happens when the projectile makes contact with a surface. Similarly to how, you know how the lens work, that frost shock, that guaranteed frost effect that you can put on your target so they're slowed down. That used to kill us back when we had self-damage, and now we have this annoying not important. Essentially, it kind of works like that. But it doesn't have guaranteed status procs, and it doesn't have any damage whatsoever, because even though I'm using Hemorrhage right now, tell me what you don't see on my targets. Not a single slash proc. So this empty damage instance can only generate procs on your targets, but no damage. So therefore, I don't get any slash either. Now this will be a whole lot more visible when we spawn a singular target. Now, when exactly does this empty damage instance happen? Well, sometimes it happens at the point of contact of the projectile, and sometimes it happens if the target/targets are being dragged over the projectile, which is embedded, let's say, in the ground, before it gets a chance to explode. Does that make any sense? Yes, it's easier to see. 2 impact procs and 2 cold procs. How? One, 2 impact procs. You saw when those impact procs happen on that target. One happened exactly when my projectile made contact with a surface, and the second one happened when the target was dragged and made contact with the projectile that was still embedded in the ground, right before the explosion. So you see, that is definitely very interesting, but unfortunately none of these impact procs generate a slash, because there's no damage to be had there. It's just procs on your target, but there's no damage. Oppositely, if you're going to be hitting your target directly, like Sue, 5 impact procs. How? How did you just generate 5 impact procs? That doesn't make any bloody sense whatsoever. But if you're going to be hitting your target directly like this, eventually that hemorrhage will be generated. There you go. There's your slash proc right there. We'll be generating that slash proc. even if we had some bit of damage like a frost shock like the lens had, and it would have guaranteed impact procs, you gotta bear in mind that those will be feeble, tiny, small, so you're just gonna be getting small slash procs on your targets through hemorrhage, so it's not gonna be the one saving grace of the weapon. This is just something that I believe is left over from development. I think that initially they wanted it to have some sort of an initial impact damage thing when the projectile makes contact with a surface, and then they decided to take it away, and they just took away the damage and forgot the actual procs or the damage instance itself. One thing that I did forget to mention, when that damage instance actually happens, there's a very specific sound effect. So what I'm gonna be doing, you hear it? I'm just gonna isolate it and put it on repeat so you guys know exactly what I mean. In 3, 2, 1, now. Get it? So when you hear that, you know the thing actually happened. Now enough about that, let's talk about builds. You guys want to know builds? Bro, how do I build this weapon? I would recommend you wait until the dev does something to this, and hopefully not just this Incarnon weapon, but if you must have a build now, go like so. What you got? Infused shots, though. I only really used infused shots so I can test it, and it works fine, but you're gonna need a Warframe, which is a bit spammy. If you don't like this, then go for the other one. But I think the other one was on a channeled ability, so even worse than this. Tier 3 is the usability tree, so go for whatever you prefer. I went for the range because I like using the weapon in its normal fire form, and you can use Ruinous Extension. Plus this one, you can get a really big beam. I like the really big beam. And finally, we get more critical chance and more critical multiplier. Keep in mind that the final evolutions on this one are like 6% critical chance and 0.2 critical damage, what you see here. The other one is 4% status and 4% crit. And the last one was something like 12% status chance. So again, not fantastic when it comes to these talents. And you're talking about the Gammacor, the Gammacor. You don't even want to buff this one? Really? Anyway, let's talk builds. If you want a build that can take advantage of both fire forms, this is not it. But this is mostly not it because of Secondary Shiver. I decided to use Secondary Shiver because you know what? I can make Corrosive and Cold on the weapon. And the brand new Cold proc, it gets you 50% additional critical damage. And a whole lot of us blew this out of proportion. It's not that big of a deal. It just means that Cold is not worthless past its crowd control aspect or benefit, if you will. You can go for something like this. You can change things around. It's not gonna matter all that much, my friends. Keep in mind that the weapon by default has cold damage, so you're not gonna be able to have something like heat and corrosive on it, for example. You don't like the Bane mod, you can equip something like Galvanized Shot. Galvanized Shot is only gonna increase your damage in its normal fire form, yes, because it's not gonna apply its damage benefit to the explosion. I tested this one, I was hoping it would work, it does not. So there you go. You can also use a Riven. This position on this one is 3 out of 5, so you can get something like so. Now let's test out the explosion bit, and then we're gonna change a couple of things, and we're gonna go for the other bit as well. Go for a headshot, charge the weapon. The weapon is charging. Look at that. I am melting my target. And right now, I'm not even getting the benefit of the arcane that I'm using because that one only reacts to cold procs. I think the maximum was 45 per stack. There you go. Cold procs incoming. Yeah. Jumpy. Boom. Explosion. Big. Vortex. They fly. The damage is not that fantastic. It may not be all that fantastic for an Incarnon weapon, but these are still Corrupted Heavy Goons 165 with the Steel Path modifiers enabled. You can cruise through normal level Steel Path with this one, no problem whatsoever. And you know what? Not every single goddamn weapon needs to be the Latron or the Mitre or something crazy like that. The performance of the weapon right now is not bad, it's just a little bit funky. Not the best weapon I have ever seen, granted. Now I'll be honest with you, I don't use it in its Incarnon form. I just don't. I think it's a bloody waste of a single target potential weapon. And if you want to build this one for single target, well, what should we change? Mama? First of all, that arcane that only procs off of cold stuff. So forget about Shiver. You go for Merciless if you can't aim, and Deadhead if you can aim because of that multiplier, the 30% headshot multiplier and all whatnot. You can also incorporate Galvanized Shot into this one. But that 80% status chance in the normal form is not really going to help you because you only got magnetic and corrosive on the weapon, and you're going to stack out at 10 even on a single target like that. So therefore, the status chance doesn't really help you all that much. The 40% direct damage will help you, and technically, even with just the two elements that you have on your target, again, corrosive and magnetic, it's still better than Hornet Strike. But if you think about the fact that it doesn't really help you in the secondary fire mode, you can forget about this one. Dealer's choice as per usual. But if you don't like the Bane mod, then you can simply substitute the Bane mod or it instead of the Bane mod. So there you go. Auto Riven. Auto Riven. I'd love to use Prime Heated Charge on this one, but there's no way to make like a decent elemental combo on it outside of just making direct vital with a single mod and then getting slashes from Hemorrhage. If all the impact procs would actually generate slashes, which they don't, as you know, by this point. So this would be more for the single target. Look at that! I am tearing through my targets. Just 2 stacks. Hold on, I'm stacking. Mama, wait, I'm stacking. Check me out, mama. I'm almost fully stacked. Am I even fully stacked? I am fully stacked, mama. Single target damage galore. Which is what this weapon was capable of before, but now it's even better thanks to the stat increases. And the secondary fire mode is still usable. My friends, this is not a weak weapon. Definitely not. I can show you like 20 other weapons which are significantly weaker than this. Now, again, it's not a Latron, it's not a Mitre, and it's not supposed to be, or even a Lex. No, Lex is a whole lot more powerful. For the time being, let's allow Digital Extremes a couple of fixes, a couple of buffs. Hopefully, please, the Gammacor, it's not that powerful, give buff, and while you're at it, you can also buff the Gorgon, yeah, especially considering that you gave him the same projectile, yeah, it would be nice to have a little buff. Oh, there is one more possibility. Perhaps Digital Extremes thought of this one as a combo weapon for melee, huh? Maybe you just use the Gammacor's Incarnon form to bunch them up together, and then you go in with a heavy attack of a melee. In that case, the weapon can fuck right off, and hopefully that is not the actual case and not what they intended. But I do believe that's pretty much it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite channel, subscribe only if you enjoy the content. If you got any feedback for me, I would love to read it in the comment section down below. I'll catch you guys in the next one.